Normally, when I teach people how to work with fractions, I start with multiplication and division. The reason I start with multiplication and division is because they are very simple. There are only four things you can do with fractions: add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them. In order to multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators. Let's look at the first example. 2/3 times 4/5. I multiply the numerators. 2 times 4 is 8. Then I multiply the denominators. 3 times 5 is 15. Let's look at the second example. 25 over 36 times 3/4. 25 times 3 is 75. I multiply the numerators. 36 times 4 is 144. I multiplied the denominators. Let's look at the third example. 2 over 1 times 2 over 7. I multiply the numerators. 2 times 2 is 4. And I multiply the denominators. 1 times 7 is 7. I want you to notice this number 2 over 1. If you have a whole number that you're multiplying to a fraction, this is actually what you're doing. You're rewriting the whole number as a fraction by putting it over the number 1. Anything over 1 is itself. So 2 over 1 is the same as 2. So this equation is the same as 2 times 2/7. In order to work with fractions, we want everything to be fractions. I change whole numbers to fractions with the whole number on top and the number 1 in the denominator. Let's look at the fourth example. 13/15 times -1 over 3. 13 times -1 is -13. 15 times 3 is 45. If you need help working with negative numbers, please look at one of my videos. In order to do division with fractions, first we must change the equation to a multiplication problem by changing the operation from division to multiplication. Then we replace the last fraction with its reciprocal, and then we solve the problem. Let's look at the first example. 1/2 divided by 3/5. 1/2, there's no problem there, so I write exactly what I see. Again, the problem doesn't arrive until we get to the division symbol, so there's nothing to change with the 1/2. That's not a problem, we can read that. We change this operation from division to multiplication. And the reason we change it from division to multiplication, not division to addition or division to subtraction, but because division and multiplication are inverses of each other. They undo each other. We want to get rid of this division operation, so we undo it with a multiplication operation. But we can't just change this operation because we can't work with it or don't like it. We must do something else in the equation. There's only one thing left, and that's the last fraction. And what we do is we find its reciprocal. The reciprocal of a fraction is the numerator and the denominator switched positions. So the reciprocal of 3/5 is 5/3. Now we know how to do this because I just showed you. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 3 is 6. 1/2 divided by 3/5 equals 5/6. Let's look at this last example. 25 over 44 divided by -2 over 3. I need to rewrite this as a multiplication problem. There's nothing wrong, there's no problem with this first fraction. I don't care if it was a negative fraction. It's not a problem. We can read it. It's positive 25 over 44. So write that. Then we must change the operation from division to multiplication. We're undoing division with multiplication. So we must change something else in the equation in order to not change the value of the equation. So we flip the positions of the numerator and denominator of the last fraction, that's finding its reciprocal, and we write that here. Now it's 25 times 3 is 75, and 44 times negative 2 is negative 88. So 25 over 44 divided by negative 2/3 is 75 over negative 88. It's no problem to multiply any numbers, but it's a problem to divide any numbers. 1 divided by 3. 3 does not go into 1 evenly. That gives me a decimal. We don't want a decimal in a fraction. 2 divided by 5 is a decimal. We don't want that in a fraction. So this is a problem to try to figure this out. So we need to change the operation, undo this division with multiplication, and then we can perform multiplication just as we did in the examples I gave you here. There are only 4 things you can do with fractions: add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them. You now know how to do half of the operations with fractions. You know how to multiply them. Simply multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. You now know how to divide fractions. Simply change the operation from division to multiplication and write the reciprocal of the second fraction. The only thing you may need to learn is how to simplify a fraction if it's not in its simplest form. If you need help simplifying fractions, please watch my video. I hope this lesson was helpful. Your comments help me make the lessons more effective. Please leave me a comment. Have a great day. Bye-bye.